everyone. This is Kurt from Fermentation Adventures checking in. I just recorded a podcast with Jeremy Lincoln, so check that out. If it hasn't dropped, you can check out his channel, and which I'll probably put a link into because I've mentioned that I was on the podcast, but that'll be forthcoming. But anyway, the reason I'm recording because I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of a homebrew Wednesday. Today is Wednesday. It's not going to be posted on Wednesday, but about a little bit about HomebrewCon in Asheville, which I just attended recently. Just want to really give some of my thoughts about how the event went. Probably compared a little bit to Pittsburgh because I was in Pittsburgh. Was the only other time I've been to a HomebrewCon. But overall, I thought it was a great event. Great to see HomebrewCon back. Looking forward to more events. We'll definitely grade this a little bit on let's say a curve because we all understand that the AHA in its new incarnation has been covering a lot of ground in probably a year and a half where they separated with the Brewers Association. But it was a great event. You know, there was some hiccups. There were some things that I didn't like, but I just wanted to run a quick recap. So, as well, for starters, Asheville is a great location with tons of great breweries. I've been there like 3 years running now. This is the third time there. Got to check out some great breweries I hadn't been before. Go back to some of my favorite haunts like Burial, which of course is a must on my list at least. I love that brewery for obvious reasons, and check out some other location breweries there. So it's a great location from a strictly a beer brewing aspect. Again, Asheville might have been chosen for a few reasons. Again, I think they're trying to keep HomebrewCon a little bit smaller than some of the mega events that the BA was sort of forcing them to do back in the day with like Pittsburgh and in these huge convention centers. So let's talk first about the venue. There's two venues. There was the Renaissance Hotel for the NHC competition and judging. I didn't judge any beers there this year, but I was there for part of the competition, which is fine. It's a hotel ballroom, so that's fine. But most of everything was in the Harrah's Cherokee Center, I think it's called. That venue was pretty good. It is an older venue, an older convention center. It's really probably more of I guess, a basketball or concert hall type place. So again, it is a little older. Some of the getting around there was not bad, but there was a weird ramp type thing to go from like the main level to the lower part, as well, or I should say the floor, the basketball floor where the expo was. And as well, the first night, I guess it would be the club night. There was also a concert. I don't know what concert was going on there, but there was part of the venue that ended up where they kind of had the keynote where Justin Crosley gave his talk, was in sort of like a theater that's a part of the center. But at a certain point in the day, that got blocked off to us, and there was a concert that was going on there. So it was a bit of a busy place. So I will say, again, being an older building and me being kind of like a sweaty guy, I'm originally from Canada. I sweat like crazy. Getting in the building that first day, we showed up, me and a friend of mine, Nikhil, Lazy Otter Brewing on Instagram. I don't think Nikhil does YouTube, but if you look up Nikhil, he would be, you can find him out there on Instagram certainly. But we got there, we had walked over from the hotel, and it was nice and temperate outside, but we got in the building and it was just the main entry area was kind of air conditioned, but certain parts of the building it was just so stuffy, and it was very uncomfortable for me in so much as I wasn't really warm. I just started sweating like crazy and sweating through my shirt. So it was just so humid, and that humidity kind of kills me with sweat. So that was kind of a bit of a bummer as far as the overall building. I think later in the day they kind of got it figured out, and the building was much more comfortable. But originally that was kind of a little weird. But the rest of the setup with kind of getting the free bags and the freebies was fine. Some of the talks, again, that was kind of the main event early in the day. Some of the talks were in meeting rooms that were very small. So that was a little odd that some of these talks are in these meeting rooms were kind of really small. Again, HomebrewCon itself was only about 1,100 people, but some of the meeting rooms were like crazy small. And I talked to some other folks I know they were going to go to a meeting, and they just said, don't even bother going over there. The room is packed, and you're not going to get a seat. So if you want to get a seat in a place, you probably need to get there early. So consequently, the first talk I'd went through in the day was Martin Brugard's talk on, water and acid. That was in kind of a bigger conference room. Still wasn't a huge one comparing that main room, which I can't recall what they call it, but I think that was kind of their large talk room. That was smaller than the average talk rooms at Pittsburgh. So uh, back in 2021 when they're in Pittsburgh, that was a really legit conference center that was held in. It certainly felt like we were, very spread out, and it felt very sparsely attended in a sense because the venue was just so huge. And again, I don't think Homebrew Con would be going back to another venue like that anytime soon. But just from a talk standpoint, trying to go and listen to a talk, it was very hard to get in. Plus side is, it's everything's recorded and you can go back and listen to it after. But it seems like right now that was part of the expense of going to HomebrewCon, is going to try to listen to some talks live and potentially ask questions or interact with folks giving the talk. And that seemed to be a little difficult in some cases. So again, consequently, I only ended up going to two talks. Again, the Martin's water talk, and then the one immediately after it, which was the Fermentus talk. Those were the only two that I made. Again, being at HomebrewCon, being there with friends of mine that I don't see very often, it really made it, there was really an opportunity that we took to get out and socialize and go get lunch together, go check out a brewery, go check out barbecue place or whatever. So there, that was that. The second part of HomebrewCon was the expo. Expo itself, it was small, which is I'm not surprising, but I was honestly expecting it to be smaller than it actually was. Um, so if you bought a con shirt, they had kind of had a booth set up that was printing them on demand with a few different designs, which I thought was pretty neat. Downside, of course, is rather than how I've seen it done in Pittsburgh, where you show up, you go through registration, you get your badge or whatever, and you get your shirt at that point. This time it became a whole process where you check in, you get a ticket, you go down, you wait in line with a ticket for probably 10 minutes at if you're going through there on the first day or the first few hours, 10 minutes or more. You give your ticket, you tell them what you want, and then you have to wait another 10 or 20 minutes or come back and then actually pick up your shirt. My case had a little snafu at registration, was not aware of that. I was supposed to get a ticket for my prepaid shirt, but so I waited through that 10-15 minute line a couple of times. But it is what it is. I can't say that's a really bad thing. It was just somebody missed something and whatever. So there was that. Expo, unlike Pittsburgh Expo was much bigger, even though it was sparsely attended. There was definitely some noticeable vendors that again were at Pittsburgh. Honestly, Blickman obviously has their issues, so they weren't going to be there. But Omega Yeast was in Pittsburgh, and they did not have a booth. Grainfather / BSG had a really big booth in Pittsburgh, and they weren't there. Yakima Valley Hops, another one I can remember, had a really big booth in Pittsburgh, and they were not there. And again, some of the other there was a couple of small homebrew shops that had booths there, which was cool. But again, I know they were sort of mentioning their online presence, but again, I typically, if I'm going to order online, I go through a more local shop to me. Beer and Wine Hobby, which is our kind of our Brewtubers Club sponsor, which we have a really great relationship with, and they're, especially for me, they're only a couple hours away, or I do order sometimes for more beer as well. Which again was there this year. Their booth was smaller than in Pittsburgh, but they were there. So yeah, the expo was fun. There was actually a raffle, which was a new thing. I don't recall a raffle from Pittsburgh. The kind of the social area in the expo um, was much smaller than had been in Pittsburgh, that I can recall. There seemed to be, but there was always kind of a place over there where different clubs or whatever were sharing homebrew, that was available. So that was cool. I actually spent a fair amount of time at the expo, more than I expected to. So that was the first day. Then again, after the expo, we had left. I will mention as well, a couple of vendors showed up late at the expo due to storms in the area. And, again, that's probably the downside of Asheville. So it's one thing that if folks that were flying into Asheville couldn't get in the night before, because of weather, because there was some heavy rain that occurred, late in the night, on that Thursday night. But the downside, of course, is that Asheville's a small airport and it does not have flights coming in from everywhere. Like say if it was in Charlotte. I'm not saying they should have had it in Charlotte, but Charlotte is a hub, and I'm sure if folks were getting delayed flying in the night before, there'd be no problem getting flying into that area. So that was a bit of a bummer that you wanted, if you like Lallemand, no fault to them, they were late. If you wanted to talk to Lallemand like I did, you didn't get a chance until I think they showed up finally around 5:30. So then the big event is Club Night. Plus for Club Night, let's say the Club Night was directly attached to the expo. So I thought it was odd when we went in the expo. There looked like there was these empty areas where there could have been booths, but there was none. But basically, they ended up being walkways from Club Night into the expo. So on the plus for Club Night, definite plus, there was food in the expo area that was set up, which I don't recall from Pittsburgh, but there was a pretzel vendor that were giving away, nice warm pretzels with some fantastic, mustard that was there. And then there was, as well, another kind of interesting, let's say, appetizer tray that had some meatballs there that if you had not eaten dinner, like I hadn't. We had a pretty large lunch around two, but I had not eaten dinner in lieu of, you know, getting from getting from the hotel to club night when it started. So yeah, so I got a chance to have like at least some real food, let's say, there. So that was interesting. The downside of club night, other than there was the typical booths. I think I counted after, but there is a picture floating around, that the BA posted that I might, let's stick in here so people get an idea. Um, I think there was roughly around 30 clubs, sharing their beers, but the actual area to get in around and sample the beers, it just felt extremely cramped, super super cramped. So if you picture the floor, um, the the Cherokee Center, the base ground, I guess it was probably more or less a basketball hardwood is kind of the main area grounds, with sort of, say, let's say the lower bowl removed, probably like it looked like there was probably, based on the height, probably like 8 or 10 rows of seats that can come down and go around the basketball court. So the floor during HomebrewCon was kind of segregated in three parts. The middle part, one third, let's say roughly, was the expo area. Another third of that floor was where the club night was, and then there was another third that was kind of blocked off to us, where maybe they were running some other special classes or something, or was kind of used as a staging area. But there was so many clubs, and in theory 1,000 people trying to get around this club night area and drink beer. It just felt super crowded and very uncomfortable. So it basically became a thing where we would go in, we would try to go in, we'd grab a sample for a booth, and then we'd go back to the expo area, which was not crowded, so we can have a little bit of sanity, and we're not dancing with people trying to get through the area. So that was definitely the biggest bummer of it all. That club night in Pittsburgh, I'd actually poured and went around and tried beers, but it never felt, there was periods of time where it might have felt the booth was crowded, but to me, it never seemed like it was difficult to get around the space. This was just like, it was hard to get around. And if you stopped to try something, you then immediately felt like you were in somebody's way, or, somebody was in your way. It was just um, a very, it was just so crowded and uncomfortable. We didn't, it was going till 9. We left, I think, in advance of that because we just got tired and we decided to just go to a brewery and get some beers and food elsewhere. So that's that. Um, so then the next day, yeah, the second day is really, for us when we went there. I didn't actually spend a lot of time at the con itself on Sunday. Um, just because the we went in, again, there's kind of a similar situation where there was some talks early. We had enjoyed ourselves the night before, so we got there a little late. And we got there, we hung at the expo a little bit more, talked to some of the vendors we missed, made sure we got to look around, meet up with some of our friends, and then we decided, me and Nikhil again, we decided, what, we'd rather go out and have some good barbecue from Asheville, and we caught an Uber and we just went and did our own thing and went to and visited 12 Bones Smokehouse and Brewing, which was about 10 minutes away, right? So that's where we spent the bulk of the day. And then we had gone to the Wicked Weed Funkatorium as well to watch some soccer and drink some more beers. So again, the second day of HomebrewCon, we really didn't do a whole lot in the center itself. So really, if looking back on it, it was primarily like a 1 day event for us where we had went to a few talks, stepped out, got something to eat, came back, caught some of the keynote, went to the expo, did club night, and then, we came back again the second day to, have another run through the expo. And then we're kind of done until the NHC competition results were announced. The one weird thing, again, I kind of mentioned it before, the competition results were in a separate location from the Cherokee Center. I had completely forgotten that. It was on me. I had a beer that was up for the up for the finals again, or for in the category for British Golden Ale. So I was the one who wanted to go in the off chance that I would place. I didn't place. It scored well. I didn't place, but yeah, we were at Wicked Weed. We're watching soccer. We're having a great time. We're drinking sour beers, and we're like, okay, we need to go back to the convention. So we got an Uber. It wasn't far, but we got an Uber from the Wicked Weed Funkatorium, which is on the south slope of Asheville, back to the Cherokee Center, and everything was closed because we forgot that we needed to go to the Renaissance Hotel for the ballroom there for the knockout party and the results. So yeah, we hoofed it over, made it in time, got the results. Typical NHC results scenario. It was a lot of fun. Again, there was food present. There was some chicken, so there was actually live food. It's not just like cheese and crackers or anything like that, even though there was cheese and crackers, but there was some like actual food that you can get. But yeah, and then the competition results were announced, and I didn't place, and we tried some of the beers during the competition results. The beers were open, so you can go and try a few things. We tried a few of the beers um, that were leftovers, and then we went and hung out with friends. So so that said, let's say, was it worth going? In my mind, absolutely. One thing that was different this year than in previous years, typically, or at least in Pittsburgh, you can pay for the full conference attendance or you can pay for the social package. I really wish they have that and they bring that back again. I would absolutely, next year, if it's not too crazy far, I'm probably going again next year. But if I really hope there's a social package, because for me, the talks, being that they're recorded and you can watch them again after, um, I'd really go and prefer to hang out with friends I don't see often, right? Because a big part of my home, again, I'm in the BrewTubers online brewers club. Um, there's a lot of people in that club that I feel like and again, I know really well, but I don't see very often. And I really want that opportunity. If I'm going to HomebrewCon, I want to hang out with them, right? So for instance, if HomebrewCon is in, say, hearing rumors it's going to be Michigan, Minnesota, Kansas, somewhere next year, probably a good chance that my boy Billy from Gamdude Brewing is going to could be there. I'd rather hang out with him than go watch some talk that I can probably catch later. I really want to go more for the social aspect than feeling like I have to pay for the talks that, don't get me wrong, the talks have a lot of value. But for me, there's no comparison to the value of going to HomebrewCon, getting to hang out with your friends, yeah, and socialize and try the beer in the location versus, sitting in a boardroom and listening to a talk. You know, Definitely want to get into the expo. It's great to go in, and if you have questions, you want to talk to vendors, it's great. Case in point, Nikhil, he bought a tilt, got a nice show discount. We spent a lot of time in the SS Brewtech um, booth looking at their fermenters. I kind of talked myself into buying a SS Brewtech Unitank 2.0 jacketed, which I did at the end. So I did order one using the show discount. Again, seeing it there, it was there got a chance to look at it in the booth. It was also part of the raffle as well. Didn't win it. I'm thinking it seems like a great opportunity for me to retire my Spike Flex that I'm looking at over there right now. I can retire that and move on up to the SS Brewtech Unitank conical, which surprisingly does not take up much more space than the Spike Flex, and will give me, a jacketed system, and I would feel much more confident about fully carbonating that beer in that vessel with all tri-clamps that I love the spikes. I love being able to fully take off the top, but I don't always trust that seal to try to maintain a 15% PSI. So we're gonna try it. I'm gonna try that out. I bought it, ordered it. I should have it next week. So that was it. So again, I'll wrap up. Again, another big shout out, big thanks to Beer and Wine Hobby for sponsoring BrewTubers. I am looking forward to HomebrewCon in 2027. It's all I know right now is going to be in July. I'm assuming it's going to be in the center of the country somewhere. I hear people say Chicago, Kansas City, Minneapolis, maybe somewhere in Michigan. I know in Grand Rapids, I think they've had it in the past. But really looking forward to going to the center of the country next year, hopefully, and hanging out with BrewTubers again. So yeah, and if they have the opportunity for the social package, I would definitely take that. If the full package is offered and that's the only option, I might think seriously about not paying for the show attendance. Still go. Like I said, I'll just deal with the social aspect outside of the con, but we'll see. All right, and that's it. Thanks to the HA for running a great event overall. It was a great comeback story. HomebrewCon ran again a lot sooner than I expected, and I think overall they did a great job. I do have some critiques. I'm sure things will be better in the future, and that'll be it. So I'll wrap it up there, and see you all later. Please like and subscribe, and